Hi, it's Richard Moore from Racing Profits Guides, and I'm up here at Mount House Stables with James Given, the trainer, and we're just going to talk a bit about James himself and some of the courses that he sends horses to. Give us a bit of an insight of what a trainer looks for when going to some of these courses, particularly the all-weather courses that we cover. Nice to meet you, James.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Very well, thanks, and you?
Good. Yeah, very good. What brought you into horse racing in the first place? Let's talk a bit about your history.
Well, as has been well documented, I am a vet, and I went to work for Mark Johnston as his vet and assistant, and over the 3 years I was there, very much became more involved in the racing side than the veterinary side. Right. Over the 3 years. I was lucky enough to win a scholarship, the Alex Scott Memorial Scholarship, and spend a month in Dubai. Okay. And when I got back from there, then it was the decision to be made, are you going to go training or vetting? And thought I'd have a go at training, and that was about 15 years ago, and I'm still in business. So
okay, I was going to say, when was that? Was
1998.
And you came straight to Willoughby, or did you?
Willerton.
You had a spell at Willerton. Sorry, you had a spell at Wolverhampton first, did you?
5 months at Wolverhampton to start off with. Yeah, Richard Muddle was very helpful. He made it doable to train there and rent some boxes. And then he very kindly as well let me out of my contract to stay there, to sign a contract for a year to be able to move to Willerton in April '99, and have been here ever since.
And so you've got this yard, and you've got another yard down in Hemswell village itself.
Yeah. This yard is very much more for the young horses, the 2-year-olds, and the other yards for the older horses.
And we've had a look at some of the facilities here. Obviously, you've had a great success. You'd say more all-weather, or is it across all the flat?
I think it's horses for courses. You know, we have done well on the all-weather, but I think we've also done well on the turf. You know, we've had some
very nice
high-level successes and good quality handicaps and group races. I think it's just trying to find what's the best race course for each horse.
And what are some of your highlights then of your career so far?
Well, early on we had some nice, good handicappers. I Cry For You won the Cambridgeshire, Hugs Dancer won the Ebor, the Chester Cup, and then we've had a number of group winning horses: Jessica's Dream, Wonder's Dream, Summitville, Lady Gloria, Dandino, Indian Days. You know, Indian Days was one example of a nice horse. He won the Bosphorus Cup in Turkey 2 years in a row, Group 2 in Turkey 2 years in a row. You know, not just domestically, but internationally as well.
Okay, James, if we can talk a bit about some turf tracks now. Let's start with Pontefract. Obviously, one of Europe's biggest courses, is it? Longest?
It's certainly the longest track in Europe, and it's not known for sure, but certainly thought maybe in the world as well. I mean, it's a long way around that track.
Having walked it, I know it is, but very undulating as well. I think that was the key characteristic I saw of the track as I walked round it.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a climb. I don't know what the exact height is from down at the bottom near the motorway to the finishing line, but it certainly needs a horse that has stamina.
And certainly for over the sprint track, I think from the 3.5 furlong point where you're down in the bottom of a little dip there, it climbs all the way to the finish line round that bend.
Yeah, it's on the collar all the way. Although the last furlong does flatten out a bit, it is still climbing. But yes, you need a horse that's got stamina.
So how does it affect horses? Younger horses, say a 2-year-old there, would that not be an ideal course to send them to for the first few races, or does it give them a real good education?
I think well, the point is all the horses have to handle the track. You know, whether they're all 2-year-olds or so on. I'm stating the obvious. It perhaps wouldn't help a horse that is overly keen and doesn't settle well, because you then got the added problem of trying to climb, you know, and putting more effort, more emphasis on its stamina. But I think it gives as good an introduction as anywhere, really.
And over the 5 and 6 furlong starts, they have it's quite a climb up to the finish. Do you think there's any advantage in the stall position, you know, getting a lower draw there? Or?
Very much so, yeah. A lower draw, particularly if you've got a big field, is great, quite advantageous,
because you get such a prominent position straight on.
And if you think that essentially you've gone through a 90-degree right angle turn, so if you're caught wide, you think of an athletics running track, just the 200 metres where they're kind of doing one turn, if you like. How far forward lane 8 starts compared to lane 1.
To make up for the distance.
They all travel exactly the same distance, but that's how it is. So if you're caught wide round that bend, you are having to travel significantly further to finish in front. So if you are drawn low and you can go forward and hold a position, then the horses behind have always got to not only reel you back in but then overtake you. So a low draw is significantly advantage there.
And are there any other tracks where you'd run a horse and think, oh, they'll do well at Pontefract, Beverley or anywhere like that? Is that a good, or is it very unique with that climb at the end?
Beverley has a much sharper downhill. It's only over distances further than a mile and a half at Ponty that you've ever got to really consider any downhill, and the bit of downhill at the mile and a half is not very much. So Beverley has different aspects in terms of handling the downhill into the bend. I think it's just an emphasis on being able to stay. You wouldn't want a dodgy stayer, something that's stepping up.
Get the trip.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what about the mile 2, mile 4? Those trips there, they seem to all have nice long 1 furlong straights after the stalls from the start. So plenty of time to get in position there.
Yes, while again, a lower draw on any turning track over any trip is an advantage, because you can then more easy for you to get the position in the race you want. It's not quite as critical. You don't see this rushing for position like you would do at Lingfield, say. Over a mile and a quarter at Lingfield compared to a mile and a quarter at Ponty. The emphasis on the start is not as critical.
And I suppose because they know what's coming at the end, they don't want to expend all that energy early on.
You've got to think about how you let the energy go during the race.
So it's judging the race from a jockey's point of view, is it, very much?
Yeah.
And what type of horses do you look for then? You say it's the stamina horses that you'd have, and what would make you enter a horse in at Pontefract rather than somewhere else?
I'm not sure that I'd particularly be thinking in terms of what horse would suit that. It's more about what race suits the horse.
Right.
And if the race is at Ponty, for sure, if you've got a horse that you think, for instance, is a 5 furlong horse but can get 6 on an easy 6, you're not going to go 6 at Ponty.
No.
So there's that aspect to it. But in terms of being able to cope with the track, if he takes a mile at Nottingham and a mile at Ponty, I wouldn't be thinking, oh, that's a Ponty horse as opposed to a Nottingham horse. But I think if you're stepping up in distance, you want to be certain that you thought the horse was running right through the line on a flat track.
And obviously it's a turf track there. So does it take water well? Does it tend to get very soft at Ponty, or does it drain well?
They've done a lot of work recently improving the drainage, particularly in the little the dip 3.5 furlongs out. That could get quite boggy at times, but they've improved that. They've done, even on the home straight, the top of the hill, they've improved there. It's not to say that you don't get wet days at Ponty, but
it's rare they're called off, isn't it?
It's rare they're called off, and certainly when it is wet, you see the horses taking advantage coming to the stands rail, because the track does just fall away slightly away to the inside rail, if you like, and on particularly wet days, the jockeys
stands rail is higher up.
And you'll find better ground there.
Interesting.
But you don't see that as often as you used to because of the drainage work they've done. That's what the point I was going to make, and yes, you can. Obviously, you do get soft ground, heavy ground there even, but they have done a lot of drainage work, so it does drain pretty well there.